In the still darkness before dawn, a castle rests in silence. Its tall stone walls, once echoing with the clatter of boots and clang of iron, now sleep beneath a blanket of stars. There is no light, only the faintest breath of wind pushing against wooden shutters, and the distant hoot of an owl perched in the watchtower. The air is cold, the stone floors colder still. Inside the great hall, only the last embers of the night's fire remain, glowing faintly beneath a heap of ash. Somewhere, deep within the walls, a servant stirs. She rises not to an alarm, but to the rhythm of duty, a rhythm carved into her bones since childhood. The day begins long before the sun greets the sky. In the servants' quarters, a cold, windowless room beneath the kitchen, young women and boys begin their daily routines. They light the hearth, fetch water from the well, and prepare bread from coarse ground grain. In the kitchen, it's a symphony of simple sounds. The crackling of kindling, the splash of cold water in iron pots, and the rhythmic scrape of knives against wooden boards. The castle awakens from the bottom up. First the hearth, then the hall, and then, at last, the chambers above. The lord of the castle still sleeps, his heavy wool blankets pulled high against the drafty chill of his chamber. But down below, the wheels of the day are already turning. The first golden light creeps past the castle's narrow arrow slits. The lord stirs in his feather-stuffed mattress. He is not awakened by a clock or a bell, but by the quiet knock of his chamber servant, who enters the dim room carrying a bowl of warm water and rough linen. The lord sits up slowly. His back aches from years of warfare and long days spent on horseback. He says little. A nod, a glance on his servant begins. Warm water splashes into a copper basin. The scent of rosemary lingers faintly from the cloth. He washes his face, combs his beard, and dresses in thick wool. A belt, a dagger, a cloak. Each piece of clothing signifies his rank. He is not a king, but here within these walls he is absolute. Before breakfast, he visits the chapel, always the chapel, a small, candlelit chamber near the inner wall. His lips move in silent prayer, while his men prepare for the day's orders. Above the courtyard, in a solar bathed in morning light, the lady of the castle tends to her duties. Her room smells of lavender and beeswax. She is already dressed, her long gown trailing behind her as she moves from window to writing desk. Contrary to myth, a noble woman's life is not one of idle luxury. She manages the household, food stores, servants, correspondence, and often the local villagers. She knows every child born to the tenants, every debt owed, every illness in the hall. And when her husband is away at war, she rules in his place with intelligence, restraint, and steel hidden beneath silk. She picks up a quill and begins writing letters to nearby lords, arranging grain deliveries before winter arrives. Outside, the chickens cluck and servants scurry about the courtyard. But here, inside the solar, it is quiet, organized, powerful. In a small chamber tucked between the kitchen and the stables, a boy sits at a wooden desk. His eyes are heavy, but his back is straight. A monk, old and gentle, teaches him Latin slowly and patiently. Amo, ama is amat, ... Double quotes, the boy whispers. I love, you love, he loves. This is not a formal school, but for the children of the nobility. Education is essential. Girls learn embroidery, manners, and estate management. Boys learn reading, swordplay, and diplomacy. In another room, squires spar with wooden swords under the eye of a retired knight. There is sweat, bruising, and laughter. Outside the castle, peasant children chase chickens through the mud. But here, inside, learning is sacred whispers of knowledge passed down through candles and chalked up. It is nearing noon, and the great hall is alive with smells: roasting meat, warm bread, and spiced pottage simmering over a fire. Servants move like clockwork, carrying pewter dishes and wooden platters from the kitchen to the tables. The lord dines at the high table, elevated on a platform. He eats roast duck cheese and sweet wine served in silver goblets. But this is not an everyday meal. Most days, food is simple: barley, beans, root vegetables, and in winter, food is scarce. Castles must prepare salted meat, pickled cabbage, dried herbs. The storerooms beneath the castle are dark, cool, and silent, guarding every bite for the lean months ahead. In times of famine, even the nobility must ration. The people in the village suffer more. The castle stands strong, but even stone walls cannot fill empty stomachs. A castle is not just stone piled upon stone. It is a carefully crafted labyrinth, built for power, defense, and mystery. The walls are thick, sometimes up to 12 feet deep, made of limestone and granite. They breathe cold in the winter and sweat in the summer. Beneath your feet, winding staircases lead to forgotten places, armories, dungeons, and silent storage rooms. Some hallways lead nowhere. Deliberate, confusing designs meant to delay intruders. Behind a tapestry in the chapel, there's a narrow door. It leads to a hidden passage, known only to the Lord, the Lady, and the Steward. These passages allow escape during siege, or quiet movement when discretion is needed. The Great Tower, the keep, is both refuge and last stand. If the walls fall, the family flees there. Thick doors, iron bars, no way out but up. In the inner bailey, a large dirt yard surrounded by wooden fencing marks. The training ground, the clang of swords, and the heavy thud of wooden shields can be heard through the courtyard. Young men, mostly squires, trained for years. They practice riding, swordplay, archery, and hand-to-hand combat. Each motion is repeated until it becomes part of their muscle memory. One day, they may be called to war, but most of the time, their battle is discipline. The master-at-arms walks slowly between them, correcting posture, shouting encouragement, and, when necessary, stopping the fight. In the corner, an old knight watches. His armor is dull, his hands rough, but his eyes remember everything. Look to the walls, walk along the ramparts, and you'll see it all. The angled battlements, the murder holes, the arrow slits. These were not built for beauty, they were built for survival. The drawbridge can rise within seconds. The portcullis can drop with a thunderous crash, trapping invaders beneath it. Boiling oil, rare, too expensive. But stones, arrows, and fire, always ready. Archers keep their bows strung and arrows dry. Guards rotate hourly, walking in silence, their eyes trained on the forest beyond the walls. Most days, nothing comes, but the castle never forgets that danger once command could come again. Inside a quiet chamber near the chapel, a woman prepares a poultice. She grinds herbs with a stone, muttering a prayer under her breath. Medicine, here, is a blend of tradition, belief, and fear. A stomachache might mean too much barley, or the punishment of a saint. Illness is treated with mixtures of honey, wine, garlic, and ash. Bloodletting is common, leeches more so. The castle's healer has a book bound in leather, stained with time. She reads slowly, Latin phrases, plant drawings, notes in margins. Not all survive. Many do, but all who come to her carry hope and fear. In the evening, as the fire crackles in the great hall, the castle breathes differently. The tension of the day softens. Boots come off. Ale is poured. A lute begins to play a soft, lilting melody that the troubadour sings of a knight who rode for love and never returned. Tapestries on the wall show scenes of myth and battle, woven over years by patient hands. In one corner, a child listens wide-eyed. Stories pass through generations like whispered secrets. Some true, some not, but all remembered. In a quiet corner of the castle, beyond the kitchens and storerooms, stands a small chapel, stone-walled, candlelit, and always cool. The priest lives nearby, in a modest room with a simple wooden cross, a cot, and shelves filled with hand-copied texts. Each day, he rises before dawn to pray. His voice is quiet, his steps slower with age. He performs baptisms, hears confessions, and leads the morning mass. Though his robes are plain, the power he holds, spiritual, moral, and social, is immense. In times of illness, the priest blesses the sick. In times of peace, he teaches Latin to noble children. In times of fear, he reminds all that suffering is temporary, and that heaven is not far. Sometimes, a monk visits from the abbey across the hills. He brings herbs, parchment, and silence. Together, they walk the gardens. They speak few words, but the bond between them rooted in prayer and patience. As the sun dips below the hills, the sky turns to ash and rose. The castle slows. The noise quiets. In the kitchens, the fires are dimmed. The last loaves of bread are wrapped. The pots are washed in near darkness. Servants gathered by the hearth, sharing what little warmth remains. The Lord retreats to his solar. The lady reads by candlelight, her lips silently mouthing each word. Children are tucked into straw mattresses with woolen blankets pulled to their chins. The night is both peace and vigilance. A final check of the gates. A quiet walk along the battlements by the captain of the guard. In the chapel, one lone candle remains burning. Its flame flickers, dancing against the stone walls like an ancient spirit. Night inside. A medieval castle is not gentle. Beneath the calm of starlight lies a world of fear. The stone corridors echo every footstep, every creak of wood. Rats scurry between barrels. Shadows shift in corners. And in the minds of those who lie awake, there are whispers. Whispers of ghosts who walk the battlements, of noblemen who were betrayed in their sleep, of secret tunnels where no one returns. The wind howls through the cracks in the walls. A door slams in a distant tower. The youngest servant covers her ears with her blanket. She has heard these stories since she was 5, and though she no longer believes them, some part of her still listens. In the darkest wing of the castle, tucked between the stables and the storerooms, are the servants' quarters. Dozens of bodies, wrapped in rough cloths, sleep close together for warmth. The air is heavy with the smell of sweat, straw, and soot. Yet there is comfort here, familiarity, routine. The young boy who works in the kitchens clutches a wooden spoon. The stable hand dreams of horses galloping across endless fields. A girl hums softly before sleep, a tune her mother once sang. There are no fine beds, no feather pillows, but here, within these stone walls, they are safe. And sometimes, safety is more precious than silk. Outside, the stars shine over stone towers. The moon casts long silver shadows along the wall walk. Inside, all is still. The lord and lady rest. The servants breathe slow. The candles have burned low. The ghosts keep their distance tonight. The owls are the only ones awake. The castle, built for war and ruled by duty, finally allows itself a moment of peace. And in that peace, as cold wind whispers through Moscovite towers, the castle sleeps.